The coldest weather of the winter is about to arrive across parts of the US. We're talking about how low these temperatures are about to get. We're also tracking the next winter storm, which is quickly developing and will drop a foot of snow in some places where the heaviest stuff will fall. And this active weather pattern brings relentless stormy weather to this portion of the country. We'll dive into where it's going to be the worst this week. What's up, guys? This is Tucker Antico with your weather update this week, and we're looking at more active weather. And we're already coming out of a week of crazy weather too. We've had ice and snow and a ton of wind in the Northeast, flooding across states like Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and also a lot of severe weather, including tornadoes in the Southeast. So let me know in the comments what you're seeing, where you're watching from, and we're going to keep you ahead of the next round of stormy weather, which we're going to dive into right now. Wanted to give you a little bit of context as we start this video as to how cold it's been this month. And if you take a look at our map here, you can see pretty clearly where the temperatures have been colder than average and where they've been warmer than average. And there's a pretty wavy pattern here, but more or less, the north has been cold. The south, not so much. This pattern, though, is about to flip quite a bit in this portion of the country where it's been reasonably mild, and for areas that have been very cold, you have not seen anything near the worst of it yet. If we take a look at the air masses above our heads, these usually give us an idea of how cold it's going to be on the ground. I'm going to move this forward through the week, and you tell me if you see anything that looks particularly cold. And yeah, there's this guy here, although that's more so our next winter storm, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute too. You'll want to hang on for that. But as a whole, there's a lot of oranges here. Our air mass as a whole, not super cold, which means that this cold air, it's very shallow and near the ground. And I'm going to pull up the actual temperatures, which look much, much different. And now, as we take a look at the temperature anomalies going into Tuesday, that's a bit different right there, isn't it? We're looking at temps that are going to be as low as 40 to even 50 degrees colder than average across a huge chunk of the country. Tuesday and Wednesday, these will be the 18th and 19th, and it's not going to stop there as we head through Thursday as well. You're still seeing an area where temps may be 30 to 40 degrees colder than average through the center part of the country. And remember those areas in the southeast that were reasonably mild? Well, that's all going to change a lot, especially as we get towards the end of the week, and now you're looking at the weekend where that cold air begins to settle into the southeastern U.S. So a huge blast of Arctic air is about to come in here. Actual temperatures are going to be very low, and wind chills we're going to take a look at now too. You know what? Forget wind chills. Actual temps are more impressive here. Here's your Tuesday. We're looking at temps 30 to 40 below zero in the north central U.S., temperatures below zero all the way into Kansas and across much of the central U.S. And as we move this forwards through the rest of Tuesday into Wednesday, here's where we see some of the coldest weather dive south. Temperatures still very cold across the north central U.S., but we're below zero into Oklahoma and Texas here. We'll move it forward into Thursday, still talking about some Arctic cold. Those dark purples bringing that sub-zero weather once again, 20s below zero through the central U.S. And we're not done. Remember, as we head into Friday and the weekend, that really begins to spread to the southeast. Those are temps in the 20s all the way down to the Gulf Coast on your Friday. Saturday, we're hanging on to the 30s at the Gulf Coast. 20s if you're in the East Coast, really along the entire seaboard, and even into Sunday. This cold weather, these are 20-degree temperatures across most of the country. As we start the day off, it's going to be frigid, and this is likely to be the coldest weather we've seen this winter. And by the way, on your Tuesday and Wednesday, when you have that coldest weather in the central U.S., wind chill will be as low as 40 below zero in many spots. So this Arctic blast is here, and it's also bringing the next winter storm, which we're diving into right now. All right, we'll now take a look at our next winter storm, and what you're looking at is this guy right here, as that's where our snow begins to fall in states like Kansas, Oklahoma, even Missouri and Arkansas are going to see the first taste of snow as early as Tuesday. That snow begins to fall, and with this storm, we're talking about up to a foot in some spots, and we'll talk about where here in just a moment. But I want to show you the track of this thing as it begins to move east from the Midwest to the East Coast. One of the questions recently, though, has been how far south does it go? And it does seem as though it will impact Kentucky, Tennessee, may even scrape northern portions of the Deep South before it begins to gain a little bit more power as it reaches the East Coast around North Carolina and Virginia. And then the question, does it ride up the coastline and impact New England too, or go out to sea? Well, the question has largely been answered as that high pressure and cold air pushes it farther out over the ocean. Now, there is still a chance we could see a plowable snow in southeastern portions of Massachusetts, where it just grazes southern New England. But as a whole, this thing does end up going out to sea, but not before it drops, like I said, up to a foot of snow in a couple different places. Let's take a look where the heaviest stuff's going to be. All right, starting with amounts here in the plains, you're looking at anything shaded in dark blue has a 3 to 6 inch range, and that's across a lot of Kansas, even into southern Nebraska. But it's these purple colors. That's our 6 to 12 inch range for snowfall. And if a foot of snow does fall, it's likely to be through central Missouri into areas just south of St. Louis and north of the Foothill out there. So certainly going to be a good snowfall out there in the central U.S. from this storm. And a lot of that's over by the end of Wednesday. This continues moving to the east. The storm loses some steam as it approaches Kentucky and Tennessee, but still looking at a pretty widespread 3 to 6 inch snowfall out there. Some parts of Kentucky may see a little over 6 inches of snow as well. And as it proceeds eastwards, remember, we get that burst right as it reaches the coastline. It would not shock me if some lucky winners, if you like snow at least, in eastern Virginia see as much as a foot of snow. A lot of areas, though, seeing 6 inches across that portion of the state. Northern North Carolina may see 3 to 6. And then as this thing moves out to sea, it has the chance to just graze southern New England here. Like I said, 2 to 4 inches of snow is not impossible in southeastern Mass, but wouldn't expect anything widespread through the region. So that's our storm. Again, producing a pretty good snowfall, just not as far up the coast as expected. And it's not the only place we're seeing stormy weather. We're taking a look at this active pattern as other portions of the country can expect quite a few rounds of big storms as well. As we take a look back wide across the country, I wanted to talk about one area that has just seen relentless rain and snow all winter and is going to see even more this week. And we're talking about out here, the northwestern U.S. So watch as we head into Wednesday and Thursday in that area as our next storm system comes in, bringing heavy rain to the coastline and heavy snow to the mountains out there. Feet of snow are already on the ground in those mountains, and we have not one but 2 storm systems that come through this week. The next one at the end of the weekend bringing more heavy rain and snow to that region. So certainly the Northwest seeing some of the most active weather, and if we take a look at how much rain and precipitation will fall, we're once again talking about precip amounts that are on the order of several inches throughout the week. This is the end of Sunday into Monday, and we're talking about anything shaded in gold. That's 4 to 8 inches of rain, or precip, at least our liquid equivalent. That can fall as snow in the mountains too. And these bands, they tell you where that rain is hitting the mountains and sloping upwards. That's where we get our heaviest precipitation. We call it upsloping, and there is going to be quite a bit of it across the higher terrain out here. So just some absolutely wild weather, a lot of wind out there as these storms come through, and the active pattern continues for at least the next week. So with that, we're going to wrap things up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I want to thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. And you'll want to check back too as we keep you updated on the next several storm systems on their way. And we'll also be giving you an early preview of March when we get into some of our videos coming up here at the end of the month. So be sure to stay tuned, and I'll see you next time right here.